Our area is churning out athletes. You just saw Jason Tatum. You know about Max Scherzer and Ezekiel Elliott. Well, this young man behind me may be a name to remember.
A few years ago in St. Louis, Missouri, there was an athlete that many thought was on the same trajectory as guys like Max Scherzer, Jason Tatum, and Ezekiel Elliott. AKA that means they are the next big thing, and in a completely different class. His name was Kevin Coleman. He was a wide receiver who went to St. Mary's High School, and at one point he was considered the #1 wide receiver in the class, a 5-star recruit, and literally every school in the country wanted this guy. Unfortunately though, his recruiting ranking would take a little bit of a dip at the end, and he made a mistake in where he chose to play college football. While many people will probably complain about my take in the comment section below, Kevin Coleman did not need to go to Jackson State. At the very same time that Travis Hunter chose to go to Jackson State, so did Kevin Coleman. No one really talked about this, but the top 50 player decided to go down to Mississippi, and after just an okay freshman year, was pretty much completely forgotten about and did not follow Coach Prime to Colorado, so he's kind of been stuck. He floated to Louisville and is now at another Power 5 program. A few years ago, he was the next big thing, and now pretty much nobody even knows about him. In today's video, we're going to talk about Kevin Coleman. We're going to go through how he became the next great athlete out of the city of St. Louis, why he chose to go to Jackson State, and how it hurt him and what his future could look like. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about what happened to Kevin Coleman. In order to understand how Coleman got to this point, we first need to go back in time. St. Louis has really begun to produce elite level players over the last decade or so, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, guys like Jason Tatum, Ezekiel Elliott, and Max Scherzer all came out of the city and were considered one of the most elite players in the sport. Kevin Coleman was seen as the next man up in the city. In 90 years of St. Mary's High School football history, they had never seen an athlete quite like Kevin Coleman. He was inspired to work hard and be the best after his little brother was tragically killed by a stray bullet when he was just 1 year old. This was absolutely awful. Kevin said, quote, "He's really why I do sports and how I play. I dedicate my game to him, and his loss hurt my family a lot, so I try to put all the work in and make the best of life for what it is." Outside of football, Kevin was also an insane track runner and a trumpet player. He was truly the next big thing, and someone who was at the top of everything and someone to root for. It only took 12 seconds for him to score his first varsity touchdown as a freshman at St. Mary's, and then, for the rest of the year, he went completely berserk. In total in his freshman campaign, he ended up having over 1,000 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. As a sophomore, he had 1,500 receiving yards and 24 scores. This happened back in 2019, and from there, you probably guessed it, Kevin Coleman became the top receiver in his high school class, was the next big thing, and every school in the country wanted him. Head coach Ken Turner made Coleman the staple of his offense, and it was for good reason. He was seen as a dynamic talent and was an impact varsity player since his freshman year, but over the course of his high school career and his 4 years, he raised his national profile even more after dominating at 7-on-7 events and putting on an outstanding junior season. In February of 2021, Coleman was the 3rd ranked receiver prospect nationally. It had dropped a little bit, and the 18th overall ranked recruit. He was a 5-star player and one of those talents that everybody wanted to get their hands on. He said, quote, "It's a blessing to be a 5-star, but as soon as I get to college, the ranking goes away. Even the NFL, no 5 stars. At this time, he was on the path to playing on Sundays, but first, where would he go to college? Well, this is where things get fun. He dropped a top 5 schools that included Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, and USC, and each of them had their reasons to be optimistic. The Longhorns had a great recruiter on their side, as they had recently got a commitment from Malik Murphy, and the two reported they wanted to play together at the next level, so maybe it'd be Texas. But he said a lot of other things too. He said he had an insane interest in Mario Cristobal's program over at Oregon, and that was going to excite Duck fans. Coleman said, quote, 2 words, dream school. With USC, they had just fired head coach Clay Helton, and Coleman was all of a sudden interested in playing there. He said, quote, "As soon as their interim got the head coaching job, it was a no-brainer. I had to put them back in my top 5. He was also apparently in love at Florida State, saying, quote, "This is my first stop. I always told the Florida State coaches I would get here at first opportunity, and this is the first place I wanted to go." Another thing about Florida State he said that was worth noting was, quote, "One of my favorite players of all time was Deion Sanders, so I had to see what it was about." So, who knows what was actually going on? It seemed like everything he said was kind of contradictory, but I guess he liked a lot of schools, and he could choose exactly where he wanted to go. Eventually his time to commit came, and he had 4 hats on the table: a Miami Hurricanes hat, a Florida State Seminoles hat, an Oregon Ducks hat, and a USC Trojans hat. Kevin Coleman talked up the Hurricanes and the Seminoles, and it looked like he'd be leaving St. Louis for the Sunshine State. But all along in St. Mary's High School, he had another idea. He was going to try to pull one of the biggest recruiting stunners of all time during the Army All-American Bowl. Rated as the 9th best receiver at this point, Coleman decided to commit to Jackson State. He chose them over the 4 programs with the hats on the table and never gave a hint about this during the week, and that's why the surprise ended up working. Why Jackson State? He said, quote, "I decided yesterday. The motto I've always had through life is just to be different. All my life I've kind of been an underdog and everybody always doubted me. Every move I've always made was different than everybody else's, and I never chased anything. I let it come to me, and I feel like this move I can change and show everyone that you can make it from anywhere. You just have to believe in yourself and work hard." Okay, this is where I'm going to stop the video and kind of have a critique. 1, it's not a great sign that he decided on Jackson State just one day before the ceremony, and 2, the idea that if you're good enough you can make it from anywhere, I think is a problem in college football and sports in general. You can be Zion Williamson, but if you're playing for Southern Utah, you're likely not going to get the best coaching, you're not going to have the best facilities, you're not going to play the best competition, and it's going to hurt you in the long run. Yeah, maybe you stand out and put out big time numbers, or maybe you become the top dog, but will it help you in your eventual goal? I don't know. That's kind of what this felt like with Kevin Coleman going to Jackson State, as yeah, it was Coach Prime and yeah, it was popular for recruits to go there, but it really didn't make that much sense. Jackson State's an FCS school, they don't have the greatest facilities, and they didn't exactly have a track record of getting players to the NFL. Obviously, Coach Prime wanted to change that, but he still was not an established coach, and even then, this was a lot for Kevin Coleman to risk. If he would have went to a school like Florida State, Texas, or Alabama, he likely would have been developed from some of the best coaches in the country right away, would have been competing against top-notch talent every day in practice, and would have had to really work to get on the field. That probably would have been better for him than stepping in right away at Jackson State. But that is just my opinion. Coleman's stunning decision followed in the footsteps of #1 overall recruit Travis Hunter, as he pulled off the biggest recruiting shocker ever when he decided to leave Florida State for Jackson State. While Travis Hunter is usually the one who comes to mind while discussing Deion Sanders' recruiting success at Jackson State, Coleman was almost as big of a deal. He said he did not reveal to Sanders or Hunter that he intended to pick Jackson State, and they found out the same way everybody else did, during the TV broadcast. Kevin said, quote, "I didn't even tell Travis. He's been blowing me up and he didn't even know. I know he's going crazy right now, and I never told anybody I was coming. I just wanted them to be shocked." At the time, Deion Sanders could not officially comment on unsigned recruits, but he did confirm on Twitter that he did not know Coleman was coming to play for him until the decision was revealed on national television. One scout said, quote, "He has great suddenness as a route runner and an open field runner, has great ball skills, has competitiveness and speed, and he has good time speed from his younger days, and we assume those numbers would even be better now." Coleman was not the biggest or tallest player at his position, but he makes up for it with his strength and determination. He's faster than most players in high school, which allows him to generate separation and soar past the defense when he gets open. So yeah, at one point he was on par to be the next great athlete out of the city of St. Louis, but he did fall a little bit in the class of 2022. According to 24/7 Sports, Coleman was a 4-star player, the number 11 wideout, and the 72nd overall prospect in the class of 2022. So, after pulling on the shocker, how would he end up doing at Jackson State? Well, let's take a look. When he arrived at Jackson State in 2022, he was part of a talented receiver corps, and he would end up getting on the field a little bit as he played mostly as a slot receiver. In his first game, he caught 4 passes, and then eventually in early October, caught his first touchdown on the road against Alcorn State. From there, he was your typical 3rd or 4th option on the team, as he ended up having a touchdown in the SWAC championship game, and then helped them get to the Celebration Bowl, where they lost in overtime. It was in that game, though, where he showed that he was going to be really good, as he caught 7 passes for 137 yards and a touchdown. On the year, he caught 33 passes for 510 yards and 3 total strips to the end zone. It looked like things were on the up for Coleman, but then Deion Sanders uplifted, left for Colorado, brought some of the team with him, and Kevin Coleman decided to go in a different direction. Now, after being part of the Coach Prime effect, he would have to find a new school to go to, and he decided to go to Louisville. He would have 3 more seasons of eligibility remaining, and one of the first things he did, and he became one of the big first recruits of the Jeff Brom era. He took over as the Cardinals head coach after being at Purdue, and he said he wanted to build the passing game through the portal. He was able to get a couple big names, as he brought in Jack Plummer from Cal, as well as a couple of big-time receivers in Jaden Thompson from Cincinnati, Jimmy Callaway from Tennessee, and most notably Jamari Thrash from Georgia State. A lot of people were hyping up Thrash as the next big thing, and that's exactly what would end up happening, but Coleman was also supposed to be option number 2. He was going to have a lot of flashy plays, and many thought he'd have a lot of touchdowns. But Coleman did not really do much at Louisville last year. I don't really think he fit with Jack Plummer that well, and in total, Coleman ended up being pretty underwhelming. His best game came in October against Pittsburgh, as he caught 5 passes for 26 yards and a loss, and other than that, he really was not that great. He had a touchdown in week 1 against Georgia Tech and a touchdown on the road against Miami in late November, but he was really just a lower end role player. He did catch a pass in their ACC championship loss to Florida State, and then he had 3 catches in the Holiday Bowl against USC. In total, Coleman caught 26 passes for 362 yards and 2 touchdowns. After the season was over, a lot of people had already forgotten about Kevin Coleman, and he decided to enter the transfer portal for the 3rd time. He had now played for 2 different programs in 2 different years, both of which he probably should not have gone to. Jackson State was just because of all the recruiting hype, and Louisville may have just been for playing time, I don't really know, but that probably wasn't the best offense for him to be in, as Jack Plummer is really not that great of a quarterback, and Louisville was more of a runner, and Jamari Thrash was the top option. Because of all these factors combined, it looks like Coleman's trying to pick a school where he can accomplish a couple of things. 1, be a part of a really good offense, 2, potentially be one of the top receivers on the team, and 3, play against elite competition. That's why he's going to Mississippi State. New head coach Jeff Lebby is now taking over for the Bulldogs, and he will definitely have more of an air raid style of offense, and Kevin Coleman's a really fun player who's fast and can make plays, and hopefully he will be that top guy. Mississippi State lost a couple of talented players to the portal, and Coleman is in the running to be that top receiver this year if he can put it all together. I'm sure at least on paper he can see that, and that's why he chose them. And then 3, he'll be playing against SEC defenders each and every week, and this will help get the best out of him. He won't be playing against FCS level players, or won't be in an offense that holds him back like Louisville, and now he'll get a chance to shine. A couple weeks ago I made a video on 20 breakout players, and I actually picked Kevin Coleman to be the breakout star for Mississippi State. I know this video is about how Jackson State kind of ruined his career, but I do think he has the work ethic, talent, and opportunity to really make things work at Mississippi State and become the guy. I mean, he was a 5-star and put up those insane stats for a reason, and if the right opportunity and the right coach can get it out of him, Kevin Coleman can live up to all the hype. I think what's disappointing to me though, is he should have just gone to a blue blood team to begin with. He shouldn't have danced around at Jackson State, he shouldn't have gone to Louisville, and he should have just chose a big time program that could develop him and get the most out of him. That's my take on it, and I know some people will be angry down in the comment section below for saying that, but I think him going to Jackson State is what ultimately set him back here, and that is just my thoughts. But what do you guys think? If you're a Jackson State fan, a Mississippi State fan, or a Louisville fan, what do you think of Kevin Coleman? And who's another recruit like this I could take a look at next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.